Sometimes it's very important to be good, and then you get lucky, right? I mean, we went in, like Steve said, to Regeneron for a specific reason, and that was certain drugs that they had coming out, which, we're going to make Regeneron a potential great investment. And fortunately, because of other fundamental reasons, they were able to take advantage of, when the COVID situation hit and had a leading drug in the mix as well, which only helped their price improvement. But that also goes back to the diligence that we do on our team, and by picking solid companies with solid catalysts that have great management and they execute on their plans, right? And,
Yeah.
and because they do that, as far as Regeneron themselves, they were able to continue to move further and be, add value when they were faced with adversity. And that's part of what we do is it's not just about, is it a great stock? Do we think the price is going to move? But do they have a great management team? And do they do what they say they're going to do, follow their plan, and continually provide results for their shareholders?
Okay, great to hear. What now? We have a lot of our clients through the isolation and call us and they were worried about their cash flow, so they reduced their monthly contributions to their plans, understandably. But now that things are getting back to normal or a new normal, and their cash flows are maybe where they were before COVID, in order for them to have confidence to get those contributions back up to where they were and where they need them to be able to retire one day, what would you say to them about investing in the portfolio at today's market levels? And I'll give that one to you, Steve.
I was going to say I'll start with that one, but I'm going to hand a little bit to Lance, because there's a couple of things I'll have Lance touch on as well on this. But obviously when the pandemic hit and we didn't know what was going to happen and we were shut in and everything else, it's natural for all of us to get cautious and to pull back and pull in our horns. And believe me, there's a lot of people that north of the border, south of the border, that we're still worrying about jobs, being back to work. Are we going to get back? So being cautious at that time was not a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. And who knew that we were going to close down as long as we did, and we were going to hurt ourselves as much as we have. But the other side of it is it's the resilience of mankind and of humans. Is we take a situation, we adjust to it, we make do with it. Disruptive technology comes along. People make good choices on that. So the economy is moving forward. Changes are being made. We're adjusting to, if you like you said, the new normal. Hopefully, it's not going to be the new normal for that long. There are vaccines coming out, and that's what I'm going to have Lance just touch on briefly, because he's pretty up on some of those things. But we've got the potential for vaccines are real, and forget all of the rhetoric that's coming out from down here, where you've got a president saying one thing and other people saying it's going to be out by the election. It's not going to be. Forget that stuff. They're working very, very hard on that. There's treatments. There's been tremendous advancement in treatments for this. Governments are starting to realize that it's a virus. Viruses do what viruses do. They run their course. There are treatments. They are vulnerable. I don't mean to make light of how dangerous this thing was or anything like that, but we're adjusting to it. We're recognizing that it's not quite as deadly as we thought it was. It's it is for the most part treatable for most people. We definitely have people who are more inclined to, and some comorbidity issues that you have to be very careful with. But like I said, we're getting back, and remember, this was a self-imposed shutdown where we shut ourselves down, and as soon as we turn those spigots, we're slowly turning spigots back on. Can you imagine if we had a vaccine tomorrow and we could get everybody vaccinated, and we could go back to the hockey games, and we could go back to the football games, and we could go back to the baseball games and the concerts? I mean, this economy, globally is really, we're nervous about going back to those things, but there's a lot of people that want to get back to normal. We want to go see our friends. We want to go out to eat. We want to do all those things. This economy is really posed to turn itself be turned back on, and there's a tremendous amount of pent-up demand that should flow through. Now, like I said, it's amazing how resilient we are, and we've been able to work through this, but there's a lot more to come. And just think, when you can get back on a cruise ship and you feel comfortable with it, you can go to the movie theater and you feel comfortable with it, you can go to the concert and you can feel comfortable with it. There's a lot more coming. And so, like I said, I wanted to touch on that. And so we're actually, as I look at the next 2 years, next 3 years, things look really good. So, and I want Lance to just kind of touch on some of the vaccines, because he keeps up on that, and we talk about that almost every week in our investment committees.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I would say along those lines, I mean, when you think about it, there's a lot of big names that we know and we are familiar with. I mean, there's more than a dozen companies that are in the hunt for a vaccine. And just to name a few, it would be like J&J, Merck, Pfizer, AstraZeneca is a leading candidate. We have Regeneron, and Moderna is another one that I'm sure most of you keep hearing pop up in the news. As far as current trials as well, that's another leading provider for a potential vaccine. One thing that's interesting about that is you don't know which racehorse is going to win and figure out the cure for the vaccine. But when you look at like that list, for example, in our portfolios, we own the J&Js, we own the Mercks, we own the Pfizers, we own the Regenerons. And so, what we've done is we've looked at the different candidates in which we like, and we wanted to make sure we had exposure to them to take advantage of, those companies within the portfolio if they do become, the leading candidate. And we wanted to make sure that we had exposure for the end client. One thing to remember as well is that there's not just going to be one winner either, right? I mean, there's multiple vaccines, multiple different therapeutics, and quite frankly, as a country, and let's say as just a human race around the globe, there's going to be the need to have multiple pharmaceutical companies and biological companies come together and deliver different vaccines, which are going to potentially treat patients with different needs in a slightly different way, right? Not everybody's going to take to one vaccine the same as another individual. So, I mean, I think, we can all find comfort and hope in knowing that there's a global unified effort of all these great, powerful companies that have extreme, high level of knowledge and potential to come up with a cure, or let's call it a vaccine, to help support, the population. The other thing to remember is, we can see the groundwork. We can see the groundwork of like the J&Js and other companies out there that are laying the foundation, maybe not necessarily just for a vaccine, but how do you actually deploy it? Do you set up factories that can actually not just develop the technology for the vaccines, but to be able to distribute it amongst the people that, amongst everyone, right? We all need to potentially take the vaccine. And so the groundwork is being laid as we speak, so that think about as soon as we get a vaccine and things are approved and we can start deploying that amongst the population, it's going to be a very rapid progress towards getting that distributed, because we're already laying the groundwork, and that's why we're seeing so much support from governments around the globe, like the U.S. as well, in supporting the development of how we're going to distribute the vaccines, because we know, it's going to hit, and once it hits, we want to get the deployment of the vaccines out there as quickly as possible.
You got a line on Putin's vaccine? Putin says vaccine.
Yeah.
There's a few we're a little more skeptical of than others.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, good. I'm skeptical of that one.